Alright there folks, welcome to another fishing adventures, and I'm out of the shed. I'm in the house. I'm allowed in where it's nice and warm because it is blooming freezing out there. And today I want to talk about commercial lakes. I get a few questions of people, particularly new coming into fishing, and they want to go and try the commercial lakes and stuff because it's easy access, cheap for a day's sport, but they're really unsure about where to go and what to look for and where to start fishing, etc, etc. Best resource you can use are the fisheries own Facebook pages and stuff like that, because they'll always post on the results of the matches and stuff like that. And if you look at the match results, you get a rough idea of which pegs are performing well. And a lot of the times in the little write up they'll say, oh, caught on maggots short and bagged up, or dobbed red on the far margins or whatever, and did it that way. So it's always a good place to start is looking on Facebook, the different forums and stuff like that, and that is always the best place to look for information, because there's nothing worse than turning up at a lake, being really undecided about where to fish, and then picking a duff peg and struggling all day. Really, we don't want that. We want you to catch as many fish as possible. So I've put together a very quick guide. Now I can't really show you too much because I'm in the house, but I'm going to cover this again when I actually get back fishing, which will hopefully be very soon, and then I can actually say, right, I'm going to start here because of, and then actually demonstrate how we're going to go about it basically. But today is just a very rough guide with the whiteboard. Right then, so here's my cool diagram, you can see that on there. Now basically in the little intro there I said a lot of people will start short. Now by fishing short, what we mean is when you're on your peg there, there'll be about a 6 metre line. People will fish at 6 metres purely because that's normally the bottom of the first shelf, and it's dead easy to feed by hand. If you fish in a pole, you can lob your bait in by hand and it'll get to about 5 or 6 metres, okay? But that 6 metres doesn't necessarily have to be straight out in front, okay? It could be slightly to the left, slightly to the right, depending on what the peg looks like basically. And it could even be an idea when you're starting off to set up a swim on the left hand side and also set one up on the right hand side, providing it's the same depth. You don't need to change rigs or anything like that. Both are dead easy to feed by hand. Okay, now contours, I've touched on it very briefly there, okay? I don't know if you can see that, but there we go. There's Freddie the fisherman sat on his box on his peg, and we kind of work out that first shelf down is roughly 6 metres out, okay? And this is pretty much standard on the majority of commercial lakes, okay? You want to plumb up to find the bottom of that first slope, because that's going to be a patrol route for the fish. So it's always a good place to start, and you can guarantee, especially through summer, spring, summer and into autumn, if you're watching the match results over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, they'll fish short. So if you turn up at that venue on the Monday, start fishing at 6 metres, the chances are the fish are going to be there waiting for you anyway. So it's always a good place to start. And then generally speaking, in a commercial lake, it'll be pretty much flat and boring all the way to the far bank, and then you'll either get another gradual slope or quite a steep slope going up. Now depending on the width of that, you could either fish it with a pole or you could chuck a little feeder across, okay? And that is where we've got this section now. And again, there's your little peg. So you've got your 6 metre line, left and right, 14.5 metres, that is another good area, okay? Because if we imagine it on there, it's in between a lot of these near banks and far banks, and it's a nice comfortable area to fish. And when the bait goes in, the fish turn up. So they tend to stay in those lanes basically. Now this can be very venue specific, and it can be very time of year specific, okay? But this is just a rough overall guide basically to hopefully put you on some fish when you get there. So 6 metres, 14.5 metres, and if it's wide enough, you can lob a little feeder out. I mean, you can pop a feeder in at 6 metres. I've done a video on that and it went really well, just underarm chuck on that inside line. I will put a link to that in the description below as well, so go check that out. 14.5 metres, and then anyway after that, depending on what pole you've got, you could either fish at 16, or as I said, you can chuck out a little method feeder across to that far bank. And again, you're looking for areas of like a comfortable cast. Basically, you don't want it to be too snaggy because you don't want to get snagged up. On a lot of commercials there'll be a lot of foliage and then there'll be a clear patch in there, okay, and if you get your feeder in there, the fish are going to go in there. I mean, I've seen it before when I've fired pellets right across. They've actually come out of the water onto the bank to suck the pellets off the grass. It's crazy. But as a rough guide, that's what you're looking for, basically. Other features as well to consider are like any other watercraft or lake or pond. So you're looking for lily pads, overhanging bushes, rushes in the margins and stuff like that. Anything that's going to give cover to fish will hold fish. But as I said a couple of minutes ago, it is time of year specific. In winter, especially on commercials, those carp are going to ball up and shoal up, and they'll be in certain areas of the lake where the warmer water is, okay? So as a rough guide, use this as a starting template. Check out Facebook groups, look for match results, even if you're not a match angler, and it'll give you an idea of which parts of the lake are fishing well, okay? And just go and enjoy it. And the more you get out, the more you'll pick up, the more you'll learn, and the easier it will get for you. But yeah, as I've said, I'm going to get on the bank very, very soon, and I'll be putting these little tips and things into practice in a little bit more depth and a little bit more detail, showing you how I approach lakes and why I make the decisions that I do during the sessions. But for now, yeah, tight lines, and I'll catch y'all later. Cheers.